Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In this edition, I have with me Dr. George Gonpu, and we're going to be discussing two major topics. This is FOL Marketplace, and welcome, Dr. Gonpu. Welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Dr. Gonpu is a professor of economics at Ramapo College in New Jersey. Again, Dr. Gonpu, welcome. Let's discuss business, economics, finance, and everything in between.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. It's a pleasure to have an opportunity on Focus on Liberia once again to discuss with your audience.
Thank you. And Dr. Gonpu is a regular here on FOL Marketplace. We have not been here for some time now. He has not been here. But we are glad to have you, Dr. Gonpu. I'm getting some sticking sound here. Why I made some adjustment, Dr. Gonpu, if you can go and talk a little bit about what you've been doing with economics.
Well, economics is basically a part of our lives. The life we live is influenced by the economy. We all have to pay bills. We use the money that is in circulation. And if we have debts in terms of paying for homes, we have mortgages that we have to pay, or we have rent that we have to pay. And all of that is related to economics in the sense that we have to manage our affairs. We have to work for money and then manage our affairs. And today, we will have a chance to look at some of the challenges our country has faced with respect to economic issues and the overlapping effect in terms of what other impacts it has had with respect to stability, uncertainty, and our political dynamics.
Thank you, Dr. Gonpu. Again, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Focus on Liberia FOL Marketplace. And my name is Dennis Jai. We are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Our guest to discuss the topic is Dr. George Gonpu. And two topics we're going to discuss today. First and foremost, the printing of new banknotes. In Liberia, they call it the new family of banknotes. So the House, both the House and the Senate approved this, and we're going to have banknotes printed. If you can remember, Dr. Gonpu, there was a liquidity shortage, and we talked about this on Focus on Liberia some time ago. And part of the solution to the shortage of money in the bank was to print new banknotes. So what we've heard now is in the news is that we are printing a new family of banknotes to take away the old ones. So let's say if you had, it's going to be brand new and will replace entirely the ones that have been in circulation, the multi-layer one, everything in circulation. And I'll put on a board for you, which we can come back later, is something that look like what our new money will look like. So that's it. So that's that's what is unfolding in our country, the printing of new banknotes. So take me back, Dr. Gonpu. I know we discussed this before concerning the reason this was being suggested. Now it's being approved. And
yeah, maybe our information might be different, but the latest information I got was that the House had approved and was going on to the Senate. I've not gotten any update that the Senate has discussed and approved the printing for the $8 billion. So you are in the media. Do you have new information on that?
Right. That's what I read before coming on the show, that in the news that on Monday the Senate approved that, but I could be wrong, but that's the latest information that I got. But in any case, 48 billion Liberian dollars being proposed is being endorsed by the House of Representatives. That for sure happened. and the Senate also approved. That's what I heard in my latest, the latest news that I got. What's your take? What's your first reaction to the endorsement that we're going to have new banknotes? Good news, bad news?
Well, I am disappointed that we're going to be printing additional money. And my information is that the approved notes were supposed to be replacing mutilated notes. And when you talk about the replacement of mutilated notes, it's like exchanging the old notes for the new notes. But that if they're going to be a new family of notes that will be totally different from what's on the market, then the implication is that they're going to be completely replacing them and not just the replacement of mutilated notes. So maybe that information need to be clarified.
Right.
And I think that the quantity of notes they are talking about sound in excess of what the economy needs at this time. And the implications and the possible consequences could be higher inflation, which tend to affect people's lives, tend to make it difficult for people to make ends meet. And we've had very serious inflationary experiences in recent years. And the central bank have been doing some work to try to bring that under control. So to talk about allowing them to print to print $48 billion, I find it disappointing, and I don't think it's a good policy for us at this time.
So, Dr. Gonpu, let's get it, clear, and then we can. Let's. Two things are happening here, and we can get an input to be 100% sure.
Right.
The printing of a new family of banknotes that I read in the paper, or the printing of banknotes to replace the mutilated one. Either or, which one is worse?
Well, I think that all countries have to print money.
Right.
And you need money to provide liquidity in the economy and to help the economy operate smoothly. But you have to know the relationship between the amount of money you want to print and the amount the economy actually needs. Because there's a chance that if you print too much money, you will create more inflation, meaning that the money will lose value. And when that happens, it undermines the development of the economy. At the same time, when you have a shortage of money, that can also be a problem. So, given the recent experiences at the central bank with respect to the $16 billion that created the high inflation in the economy that caused a lot of commotion, a lot of uncertainty. And until the issue surrounding that $16 billion is completely clear, I don't think it's a good idea to go ahead and authorize the printing of more money.
If we were to suggest and that this was a family of new banknotes to replace all the money we have there, will 48 billion be enough?
Well, I think that what we should be clear on, maybe one of the things we need to clarify here is this. When we talk about money in the economy, most people think about currency, the actual dollar bills that we spend to purchase our goods and services and to do our transactions. But when economists talk about money in the economy, it's not just the currency. So the printing of that money, when we talk about printing money, they're basically talking about the currency portion of the money. And the fact is that that is a small part, okay, of the money supply.
Okay.
The latest report that was published by the central bank in June of 2020 indicated that the money supply was $128 billion. And of that amount, the currency in circulation was about $19.2 billion. So when you hear about the printing of money, as indicated by the discussion in the legislature, they are talking about the currency, the amount of currency to be printed, which will be in the custody of the central bank for circulation in the economy. So that currency is just a part of the money supply. Yeah. The money supply also include other financial instruments like the balances in checking accounts, the balances in time deposit accounts, and the balances in savings accounts. See? So when you talk about the entire money supply, it's bigger than just currency. So the printing of $48 billion in terms of currency, that will be more than double the amount of currency that is in circulation in the economy. Because again, according to the latest report I got, it was around $19.2 billion. So even if you wanted to replace it completely and you printed $48 billion, it means that you replace it and you still have more currency left over, which will then be maybe, according to what they were saying, be in the central bank custody for release in the economy over time. And given our recent experience, I think that would be a risky move to make.
And you started by saying you're disappointed because we spoke about this before when we had the liquidity shortage in the bank. And you're saying printing the 48 billion is not going to solve the problem. Why is that?
Well, printing the 48 billion is not going to solve the problem because the issue is that the banks are not getting the amount of currency that they think should be in their system in order to meet their customers' need. And they're not getting they don't have the currency, not because there's not enough money in the system. They're not getting the currency because people are not bringing this currency and leaving it in the banks. See, so in our country, people need this currency to do their transaction. Right. But part of the reason why we have money is not just to do transaction. We need money to be part of our holding in terms of our wealth. Okay, and we need money also to keep for what we call precautionary purposes. Right. So the thing is that if people are not trusting the financial system or they don't have much confidence in the financial system, then they're withdrawing their currency or they're holding on to this currency and they're not bringing the currency back into the banking system. You see, so as a result, when someone goes to withdraw from their other accounts, then the bank doesn't have currency to meet the needs of their customers. So that's the issue that is the problem that is causing the liquidity crisis, that the bank doesn't have currency in their vault to meet their customers' need. See, so if you print more currency, and what that's going to do is, or what that might do is that people could still continue to take those currencies from their accounts. So then you still end up with the same problem or worse.
Yeah.
Because now you have more currency in circulation in the system, and excess currency in circulation and excess, money supply would lead to higher inflation in the economy.
Socrates saying, only in Liberia the printing of money is a political issue. Other countries leave it to the bank governors and a small committee in the Senate. So, in other words, printing money is a routine, according to what people are saying, is routinely carried on by every country. Why is this a political issue when it comes to Liberia? That's Socrates.
Well, I think because it could be that the experience with the financial disaster in the banking system has made people to be suspicious of those in management of the financial system, and therefore the authority for printing money and for printing currency is placed in the hands of the legislature. Liberia has had some serious financial crisis in the past. In the 1980s, so many depositors lost so much of their life savings before the war because all of the banks went bankrupt, particularly because there were a lot of corruption and inside lending. Mm-hmm. And therefore, people have that experience. And in light of that, the extra control just indicate that people want to make sure that there is care in the management of the financial system.
And I know you spoke about this briefly, but let's make the distinction here: printing new money or printing new currency. What's the difference?
Well, the issue of printing currency, you can be like in the US, there is currency being printed to replace existing currency. So it's the same currency. Okay, the same US dollar. The $20 bill will look exactly the same as before, or if it is revised, the revision is not that much. But if you print new currency or you print additional currency with the hope of replacing the existing currency, then like you're going from what we had with either the JJ Robert to the Liberty or the Liberty to the JJ Roberts or something of that nature. So it's like then all of the money before will now just be null and void.
Yeah. From what I read now, you said that when you print the new money, currency, banknotes, they are $5 and $10. We will no longer have $5 and $10. We're going to have up to $500 bill. So that looked like new currency to me. And I had this on the board. So we have here, we have 5, 50, 10. Who knows? Maybe it will look like this or not. I don't know. But if we get rid of the $5, the $10, and we are up to $50, what's the danger in that, or what's the good side of that?
Yeah, and that's why the issue of saying that they're printing a new family of notes to replace the old one has to be viewed carefully, because if this is a new kind of money, and so all of the money on the market is going to be retired, so we're going to a new system or a new set of money, then how can you not have $5 and $10? So, and that is, if we have something like that, to me, that's not a good strategy, because I mean, if you have If your money starts only at $20, it means prices for everything will start at $20 and up, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you want to buy something that is $1, how do you make change? Okay, they're talking about. I think I read something where they're talking about either introducing the coins or something like that for the other bills that will not be present. And again, the replacement of all of that money with coin would also be very expensive.
So what needs to happen here? Okay, because right now nothing is dollar, probably nothing is $5. So what's the point of keeping a $5 bill if the prices are all start from 20, 30 and up?
Well, I think the thing is that you are not part of the reason why you have prices starting at $5 and up or $10 and up could also be because of the inflation in the economy.
Okay.
And high inflation is not necessarily a good thing. See, in the before 2017, the inflation rate was basically single digit. And you want the inflation rate to go down and not up.
Yeah.
See? So inflation is not a helpful experience to have in the economy, especially when the inflation rate continues to go up. So if you print currencies or you have a monetary system that does not have small denominations, you make it difficult to make change. And therefore, if you bought maybe a pile of peanut, it will be maybe $10 and up if you don't have any means to make change. See? And what could happen is that with that, if you start having more inflation in the system, prices will continue to rise. Then the next time around, you have to get rid of $20 and start getting higher and higher. And that's not really helpful for the development of the economy.
How do we solve this?
Well, we have to look into the causes of the problem in order to develop solution. And I think part of what's happening here is the issue of confidence crisis. The question surrounding the $16 billion has not really been clear, and it sort of created uncertainties. Cruel accounting group came in through the USAID. They did their audit, and what they reported was that they found so many discrepancies.
Yeah.
Okay, and in their report, they said that the central bank was only authorized by the legislature to print $5 billion. Instead, the central bank went and entered a contract with Crane agency and printed for $15 billion. And the amount of currency that were printed were even more than $15 billion. They printed, I think, $15.5 billion. So the implication of that is that we have laws that say this is how we are going to manage the printing of our currency. And the central bank is violating the law of the country. That trigger a lot of uncertainties in the economy. I mean, in the society. And then the finance ministry and the information ministry were in contradiction of one another with respect to the money and the circulation of money. Then you had the issue regarding the mop up exercise with the $25 million that was done by the economic management team.
Okay.
That also created additional uncertainties. See, plus the inflation that was happening in the society made people to become suspicious of the whole made people to become suspicious of the financial system, and they tried to withdraw their currency, withdraw their money from the banking system. And that created a liquidity crisis. So the entire banking system, the entire financial system strives on the confidence of people.
Right.
Even in the United States here, the system exists because people have confidence in it. If everyone in the United States, as rich as the United States is, if all of the depositors wanted their money at the same time to take it out of the system, most banks will go bankrupt. They will not have enough money for you and I to withdraw all of our money. So it's because of the confidence in the system that make people to hold their money in the banking system, and then the banking system can then circulate that money to people who might need a portion of their accounts. But the situation in Liberia is as such that because of the confidence crisis, most of the depositors want to get their money out, and that creates a liquidity problem for the banking system. So we need to look at what's driving the lack of confidence in the system. What is depleting confidence? And we can address the confidence problem, then we would have laid the foundation for solving the problem.
Okay. So let's come to the politics of this, right? Because it seems to me that a lot of people are saying, oh, this is a bad idea to print new money. I don't know what the solution will be. What can the government do? So the government take this to the legislature that is dominated by opposition legislators, and they approve it. So when you say disappointed on the political side, are you disappointed in opposition lawmakers as well, and that they are approving this kind of deal?
Well, yeah, I'm disappointed at the executive as well as the legislature for approving or for attempting to approve this additional printing of money, especially prior to getting full clarity and solution to the problem that existed before. The report that the Kroll accounting group reported, you can see reading that report that so much of the information is redacted, meaning that certain things are being taken out of the view of the public.
Right.
This is a simple report about money that was delivered to the country. They agreed that all of the money was delivered to the country, that it was delivered to the central bank, but now they just needed to report on what happened to this money and how it was managed.
But Dr. Gonpu, what can the legislators do at this point? I mean, if they don't print money, there's no money in the country, so it's like they're stuck.
Well, I think what the legislature can do is the sample of money that you put up there, or the pictures of money that you put up there, show that each of the bank notes. Okay, so if you look at the left hand corner, upper left hand corner, you see the one that, let's take for example the one that President Torba is on.
Right.
Okay, that has a serial number. It's like AA3012147.
Right.
Okay, if you take another bank note with the one with JJ Roberts, it has a serial number. It has a number that ends in 177.
Correct.
See? And you take the one with Doe, it has a number that ends in 990. So each bank note has a number. Each bank note has a number. Right. So if each bank note has a number, and this money cannot leave Liberia because no one can use it in any other country but Liberia. No other country we know has this money circulating. Even if it's circulated in neighboring country, it will be brought back to Liberia. So the central bank knows the central bank has the data on all of the money that was printed, on each of the money that was printed. Okay? So if the central bank cannot, if they cannot account for each of these money that was printed, then it means that we can, the last resort will have to be to cancel this money.
Yeah.
You have the numbers. You have the numbers. If the money is null and void, so then anyone holding this money must be held accountable. How did you get this money? Because the central bank doesn't have record of releasing this money to the public, releasing this money to commercial banks. Then how did the money get into anybody's hand? If it's not in somebody's hand, it's in somebody's suitcase or it's in somebody's house or somewhere. The solution will have to be to basically cancel all of this money. So if you cancel all this money, then it means that this money now become null and void, and then we can begin to talk about new money. But right now, if you print new money and say you even try to replace those money, as long as you don't cancel them, they're going to come back. Those same people who hold those money are going to come back to get the new money in exchange for this money. You see? And then they're going to take it back to wherever it is.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is FOL Marketplace. My guest is Dr. George Gonpu. He's professor of economics at Ramapo College in New Jersey. And we are discussing two issues here, starting with money. According to the news, the new Liberian dollar banknote will be in the tune of 48.7 billion, and the government will spend over 45 million, and it will going to take 3 to 6 months to have the money in circulation. So, Dr. Gonpu, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is about the congressman. But before we do that, let's conclude on the printing of the money. Where do we go from here? To the money is printed. Let's say the Senate, everyone endorses it. It's printed. Is now in circulation. What do we expect to happen? Inflation, the economy. What do you see happening?
Well, the thing is, we had the inflationary situation a couple of months ago where the inflation reached over 30%. And then the exchange rate was going up to 200. Okay. And the IMF and some other authorities were also concerned. So the issue was that, part of the issue was that the government needed to bring its expenditures under control. That the expenditures were running far ahead of revenue. And when expenditure runs far ahead of revenue, you have a situation where you have deficit, and that deficit has to be financed. And that the whole process of financing the deficit leads the government to borrow. And one of the things that has been happening too is that the government borrowing has increased significantly, okay? From about $782 million of debt that the government had at the end of 2017, right now the debt is over $1.5 billion. Okay, so then the government has borrowed from financial institutions, including the banking system as well. See, so in light of that, this whole idea of printing money really has come about because of some of these challenges that the government has. And really, I know the legislature may have good intention saying, look, we have to try to solve this problem. But you don't solve this problem by creating more problems. So I think the way to look at this is that you need money. But the amount of money you print must be connected to the performance of the real economy. In other words, when your GDP is expanding, which means people get more and more income and therefore they need more money.
Right.
And you print more money consistent with that, then you might not create more inflationary problem. But right now, we are in a situation where with the pandemic and the slowdown in global economy, our GDP is not rising in ways that will be consistent with printing that amount of money. The economic realities are not reflecting the need for printing additional money, especially if you look at where the money supply in the economy is. See, so this is not a situation where you want to experiment with, okay, let's try it, but then you try it and you create more uncertainty, more inflation, and you create more problems for yourself.
What do you advise voters to do? Punish the legislators for doing this?
Well, I think the voters will decide what to do when they begin to see the consequences. But I think what they can do now, to the best of my knowledge, again, I don't know whether you have some background people who can check that information. When did the Senate debate this issue? Because from what I read in the local papers, it had just passed the House. So, except it was approved through some kind of extraordinary means. But I expected to see some debate in the Senate. Yeah. I expected that the discussion we're having now will have helped the Senate in its decision making. So voters will have to decide in light of the consequences. But I don't think it's a healthy idea. It's a helpful idea to experiment with the macroeconomy in this fashion.
Ansu Opa Dualo say, print away all you want. If the leaks, policy, and structural issues in the banking systems are not controlled, you can expect to continue seeing what I like to call Caught-Lehay currency, an out of control currency. So, Dr. Gonpu, another thing that made news during the week is U.S. Republican Congressman Christopher Smith from New Jersey says President George Weah leads a kleptocratic government, meaning a government of thieves, where they use the national resources for their own benefit, of what Professor George Kier called a national buffet, eat all you can eat. We're going to come to the economic implication. That's what I want us to discuss here. But you heard the news, you read this. What jumped out of you first as a Liberian and also as an economist?
Well, I was concerned. I called the congressman's office to have a conversation, and I didn't have an opportunity to talk to him. But my assumption is that the congressman is acting on information he's getting. And I think we need to be clear that he is not targeting Liberia for any particular reason or for any personal reason. I think the congressman serves on the U.S. Human Rights Committee.
Yeah.
And they have reporters and researchers in so many countries. And based on the information brought to them from those countries relative to human rights issues and corruption issues, they then make a conclusion, and that's how he reached his conclusion, or his committee, he may have been speaking on behalf of his committee, reached his conclusion relative to Liberia. So I wanted to have a conversation with him or with his staff regarding the issue, but I didn't have, that opportunity.
All right. But let me put a statement on his board so we can bring our viewers up to speed. Here is U.S. Congressman Chris Smith. In Africa, we have a special relationship with Liberia, which was founded by free American slaves. Unfortunately, President George Weah leads a kleptocratic government that has been engaged in political corruption from the day he assumed office by depleting the government coffers for personal use while the people of Liberia suffer. Liberian Senator Vani Shemo was sanctioned last year by the Trump administration for corruption, which is positive, though more must be done. That's the statement from Representative Chris. Is he your representative? Are you in New Jersey?
I'm in New Jersey, but I'm not in his district.
Oh, you're not in his district. Okay.
I'm not in his district. Yeah. So basically, what this brings to my attention is about our institutions, the legislature, the judiciary. And if you read the congressman's statement closely, he said he's referring to the entire government. Yeah. He's referring to the entire government. So the question is, why should our legislature, which should be providing oversight over the executive, be in Liberia and not conducting any investigation on matters involving corruption, and then makes the country vulnerable to these types of assessment? I do not believe that this congressman has anything personal against Weah or any other person in government. But the impunity that is occurring in the country, and the reports that the congressman is getting, or the U.S. Congress is getting, is what the congressman is analyzing and he's responding to. See, because if our institution were doing their work, when there are reports of corruption in the system, if the committees in the legislature was calling the president or calling some of the minister and having a serious investigation and taking action, we might not have somebody sitting in Washington, D.C. to be discussing problems we have in our country. See, even the issue regarding what are some of the sources of the congressman, conclusion? Some of it may be related to this money issue, because again, the president's investigative team, the PRT, that investigated this whole financial matter, also came up with conclusions that were very similar to what the USAID group, the Crow report, indicated, that the legislature only approved of $5 billion to be printed. Then you had an issue too with the $25 million map of exercise. How many people have lost their jobs? How many actions have been taken? What has the legislature done? So we are living in a new age. We are in an internet age. And so information that might be considered special in a country is global. It's everywhere. We does not have the kind of environment that Samuel Doe and other people had, and even those environments were rough. So when we have these kind of problems at home, it's best to do the investigation ourselves, get to the bottom of it, and take action. And when we do these things, then we'll not have people in other governments feeling compelled to come to regulate us or to tell us how bad things are in our country.
Dr. Gonpu, before we get to the economics of it, this statement has received a lot of a mixed reaction. Some say this is hallelujah time. This marks that the end of President Weah is near, that the U.S. government is waking up and something drastic will be done so as to stop these excesses, or in fact, one way or the other, remove him from power. Some say this is a routine U.S. thing. He has They normally say these things, but there is no force behind it. So this is just big smoke, no fire. Some say, should it take the U.S. to say something before Liberians wake up? Liberians like Dr. Gonpu, Dennis Jai, and others have been saying this thing all along. Why is it that Liberians are only responding or jubilating because somebody in New Jersey? So all these mixed reactions. What's your take? What do you think is going to happen as a result of this statement from Representative Chris?
Well, I mean, it's hard to predict exactly what will happen and what the U.S. might do, because I asked some of those questions when I talked to his office, and I didn't get any specific response. So Liberia is a sovereign country, and we, the citizens of the country, should see it as our responsibility to make sure that our system works. And the U.S. does business with us, and it is not in the U.S. interest for us to have a society that is seen as globally corrupt. Because if the U.S. continues to do business with us, when we are doing nothing about our problem of corruption and our problem of impunity, other nations that the U.S. has a relationship with will begin to condemn the U.S. as, you cannot tell us anything. Look at Liberia, which you have a special relationship with. Liberia should be an example. You've been related to these people from over 150 years ago. So the U.S. is concerned, just as any other decent nation should be concerned. But for us to hope that the U.S. will come to solve our problem, I think is not, to me, it's not a great hope to have. We have to address the problem of our society. They can only help us to address those problems. So if they do us the good by sounding an alarm, irrespective of how loud that might sound, I do not think our reaction should be to become angry, to counterattack them, to counterattack the Congress, because we want to defend the government in our country. I think these issues are raised. It should wake us up to begin to say, okay, what is wrong here, and what can we do to improve it, to fix the situation?
Right. And so, as you said, it's on both sides, right? Pro-government forces saying this is nonsense and attack the congressman. Those opposed to the government say this is hallelujah time, power to the people. You have spoken.
Yeah. So it basically again, the congressman, I think, was speaking on the basis of information brought to him by their researchers in the country, and some of his views are consistent with the views of some Liberians that have spoken out in the past, and people have condemned them and maybe viewed them as enemies. And the fact of the matter is that so many of the critics are not necessarily enemies. We all want a better Liberia. I think the legislature wants a better Liberia. I don't think there's any Liberian who wants a Liberia that goes backward. The issue is what we differ is, how do we get there? What's the strategy for getting there? Yeah. Do we protect our own? Do we look the other way when our brother or when our partisan is involved, in an illegal issue or not? Let's take, for example, the issue of the code of conduct.
Yeah, Dr. Gonpu, what I was asking is, the pro-government people are saying, oh, this is nonsense. The same time, the opposition people are celebrating. Don't you see there as opposition trying to abdicate their responsibility to congressmen?
Well, no, I mean, I think, politicians will play their hand in the best way they know how.
And they're doing it on both sides. That's what I'm saying. That's my point.
They will play their hand the best way they know how. I think any serious government should take this statement seriously.
Okay.
Because forgetting the domestic politics, when these kinds of statements are made as it was made, I think it goes global. And you are an open economy, a small country that is inviting foreign investors. This is not the kind of assessment that you want coming from people in a respected government like the U.S. government. Okay? But I don't think it's intended to basically play into domestic politics. I don't think that's the intention. I think the U.S. feel that it is its own responsibility to speak out on human rights issue, and where there is financial action that undermine human rights in terms of people opportunity to live a better life, they feel compelled to speak to it. In that same hearing, I think the list of countries that were criticized in Africa included Nigeria as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's something personal about Liberia, but I think it should be a wake-up call for those in power, for those who have the responsibility to provide oversight, to make sure that the laws are followed. The code of conduct speaks to that as well. See?
Thank you. Dr. Gonpu, hold on. Yes, Leo Johnson is saying there's background noise, but Leo, check your system. I don't think there is. We are very clear. So, Dr. Gonpu, let's go to the economic implications. Does this statement from the congressman have any economic implications?
Yeah, I would say it has economic implication in the sense that if I was an investor, or if there was an investor who was considering bringing new investments to Liberia, okay, hearing this type of news could cause that investor to pause for further investigation as to whether this is mere politics or this has validity. Those who are already in the country, in order for the economy to keep healthy, investors have to expand their investments in the country. And that,
you really think that statement will have any impact on investor confidence?
I do. I think such a statement is not very helpful, because when serious investors are looking to move into a country, or when they are already in a country looking to expand, they do take into consideration the legal system that exists. Because if the legal system works, then you have confidence that your investments will not be confiscated, or that you will be dealing with credible people whenever they speak to you, or whenever they make a promise to you. This is a promise they will stand by. But if they are being described as rogues, unless they can respond with counter evidence that no, this is not who we are. Here is who we are. Here is the evidence. Just to talk about it, but here is the evidence. When that is not done, with everybody just keep quiet and hope that it will just go away, I don't think that's very helpful for the economy. Because again, confidence and credibility is important in business relationship. And most people prefer not to do more business or expansionary or expand their business activities with authorities that have low confidence and low credibility.
And so with this one, you let's say if there were to be changes in the economy, it's not going to have that impact. Then the people coming out and talking and say, "Oh no, we're not. This government is not a government of rogues." What are some of the concrete steps you want people to take by talking or by doing something? Like that will bring
You,
a jolt in the economy.
you mean on the part of the government or on the part
Yeah,
of,
because Chris, the congressman's statement is those are mere words. Should the government respond with mere words as well, or what the government needs to do?
well, the government can respond with a statement and say where they disagree.
Right.
And because again, what are some of the big news and the big information in the economy that may be part of that human rights report that this congressman is responding to? The issue of the code of conduct. That code of conduct is a law of the land. It has certain requirements with respect to the declaration of asset. A similar law is also passed in Sierra Leone and other neighboring countries. I want to believe that the international community was on board in passing that law. And up to now, we do not know what is the asset of our president. Neither do we know the asset of so many of the government officials when it came to power. And that law required that they declare their asset when they come to power, and they also should declare their assets after every 3 years. Mm-hmm. These are some of the kinds of steps that can establish credibility. So if you don't do that, and then you're building 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mansions or more mansions, you're not new to this economy. You've been around for some time, and you come to power and immediately begin to do those types of things. Then you come on a radar. On a radar. So everything happening in the country now is on a serious radar. I mean, in terms of information being provided to the international community, so they can.
Two questions I have with that. So, with the building of mansions, the building of roads, taking electricity to Southtown, the nationwide tour, wouldn't these account for a stimulus in the stimulus in the economy? Because by building the roads, by building the mansions, you said jobs are being created, and so that's supposed to stimulate the economy. Don't you agree?
Well, the construction can be a stimulus, but the sources of funds need to be consistent with the law. You see, because if you stimulate the economy by using illegal money,
yeah,
or getting money from people who are involved in crime, so that you can give, so they can stimulate the economy.
Are you implying that's what the president is doing?
That is not what I'm implying. I'm just telling you. Sure. I'm just telling you that in order to stimulate the economy, you cannot just say money from anywhere is okay as long as it stimulates the economy. That's part of the reason why the Eton agreement had to be, put on pause. And the Igbo agreement had to be put on pause because the credibility of these creditors or this financial institution was highly questionable. See? So while spending is good, the thing is that if the funds are public funds, then the public has to decide the way it should be spent. If they are your own funds, then you provide information, transparent information. You've been working. Here is the source of my funds, and then you will not create the window for these kinds of descriptions that are coming from external powers.
Dr. Gonpu, back to the statement and its economic implications. Now, Liberians have been talking, right? We've seen 6 auditors die. We saw the missing men at the that has something to do with St. Moses. We still don't have any report as to what really happened. We have the death of the EPS officer. We saw Achi Pompom burn himself because of his delayed or salaries that have not been paid to him and other employees, and all these things. Recently we saw what went down with Mo Ali. You can't even make use of it. The EPS uh, guy who just died, and we're still not clear as to what happened. And people are talking these things. Opposition, talk show hosts, other politicians, they're saying it. What we are saying is these have maybe less weight than what the U.S. Congressman is saying. That's what's going to cause this, or consumer confidence or investors' confidence in the Liberian economy.
Well, I think what is different is that
Uncle Sam talk.
Right, not so much of Uncle Sam. I mean, if the same statement had come from the Queen of England, or if the same statement had come from the president of or the prime minister of India, or the president of China, I think it will have carried similar concern. Because I think what is different here is that the external parties are assumed not to be actors on one side or another in the Liberian political dynamics.
In other words, yeah, the assumption is they have no personal interest.
They have no personal interest.
Should we believe that by America?
They have no personal interest against. They have no reason to be personally against any particular person or this particular person who's in power, because there's no record, of George Weah as president being an enemy or not. I think he's a friend of the U.S. because he's before he became president, he was a celebrity that was praised globally.
Okay.
So there's no bad blood there between him and the U.S. or any other country. See, so basically, the assumption is that any statement coming from the U.S. is purely based on what is happening in the country. So when those talk show hosts talk, or when CPP speaks, or when CDC speaks, most of the time people weigh it in terms of their own domestic political interests.
Right.
You see, but then when you have an external party not connected to any of the groups in any way that we know of, make these kinds of statements, it has significant weight in the sense that they are external. They are assumed to be external independent parties.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia FOL Marketplace. Let me see some of the comments here. I see a couple of them really don't have much to do with what we are discussing. Dr. Gonpu. Okay, let me start with Mark Daly. Say, doctors or PhD holders in Ghana and Nigeria write books that are used in school system, but Liberian doctors are just hateful and just talk. And I think Mark is not reading. Liberian doctors, they write a lot, but even, okay, I'm not a doctor. This is my book. Have you read it? You don't even buy it. I was at a soccer game July 26th, and that's the time my brother and I just published our book, The Notebook of a Warrior, and this guy couldn't buy it. It was $10, but right there in front of us, he bought a roasted fish. One for himself and two for the other guy, but maybe that's a scale of preference.
Yeah, but I think we wish that Liberian academics could write a lot more. Even myself, I wish I could write a lot more. But, you know, we're working with so many constraints. And I think the way to make Liberian academics to write more is to emphasize the value of our intellectual asset, invest more in the academic community, invest more in research and development in our academic institutions. And I think it would provide an incentive for Liberian academics to invest more time into writing, because again, it's about investment in terms of producing those materials. And I think, you know, I think I should congratulate you for your work as well.
Thank you. And a lot of librarians have written. We've had a number of them here. Dr. Patricia Jabber Wesley have written so many books as a poet. Dr. Moses Nambe, so many books, I can't count them. Dr. Sawyer, I mean, Kona Cashew. The first novel was African novel was written by a Liberian. So we need to do a little more research on that and read those books. Jackie Saya said exactly, a country that claimed that it was never colonized depends on another country to do its work. So if Representative Smith had not said this, what then? Where are the Liberian institutions? Do we constantly depend on outsiders to do our work? And Dr. Gonpu, you wrote an article that I put there, a PDF, is in the financial crisis and analysis of the government role in the Liberian banking crisis. That's an article by a paper by Dr. Gonpu that you can read. Emmanuel Swan, all Liberia problems America. See this other one sitting on Facebook talking nonsense. Good. Thank you, Mr. Swan, for the great thing that you are saying. Others are talking nonsense. But if Chris Smith does not have any good information about the country, the people will go after him. Billy Willie. So those are a few of your comments. Let me read this. All right. I don't think most of them have much to do with what we are discussing. Okay. This is it. Samuel Y. Johnson said the statement places stigma on the country. So this means the statement by the representative. Dr. Gonpu, we are about to draw down the curtains. Let's go over our issues quickly. We talk about the printing of new Liberian banknotes and also the economic implications of the statement made by the U.S. congressman. Remarks.
Closing comments?
First, conclude on the economic implications on the congressman's indictment, as I call it.
Yeah, I think we are waiting to hear from the government. I've not heard a response yet, and sometimes people say silent indicates consent. So I think there's a need for the government to respond. And the congressman's statement is concerning, and it has implications, as I said, for investment. It has implications for confidence in the economy, and people who had some confidence, I think that could undermine it. It could lead to uncertainty in terms of people getting worried about what could come next. So I think that the economy will not be helped by this statement. But I mean, if it leads to investigation, it leads to prosecution of those who are corrupting the system, then of course it should improve. The good side of it is that we cannot really develop the economy without the rule of law. So the rule of law is important. We need to look at that code of conduct. We need to look at those places in government where it is being proven or when it is alleged that there are corruption, there should be investigation and there should be some consequences for those actions so that we can reduce the level of corruption. Also, some of the things that have been happening in government where previous government is blamed for what is happening now, where people make statements like, well, the people who are acting in certain ways now have learned it from previous government. I don't think that's helpful for the economy in the sense that it really doesn't justify what happened in the past, doesn't justify what is happening now. Part of the reason why the people elected a new government is to do things differently.
Yeah.
Whatever may have happened in the past, we now need a new way of running the country. So I would say that we all as citizens should be concerned and should call on government to be more transparent, call on the legislature to open hearings, investigations, and really get to the bottom of what exactly is going on.
You really trust the legislators, Dr. Gonpu?
Is what?
Do you really trust the legislators to do that?
Well, I mean, that's their job.
Okay.
That is their job. So if because we see what has happened to the case of Vanishan, and you've heard about some of the impact that he has suffered. So, and I think the purpose of some of these action is to bring change.
Yeah.
So those who are involved in it, if these statements lead them to wake up and change their ways and begin to seriously do their jobs, then it would then have a positive impact on all of us and the society as a whole.
Thank you. All right. Let's run through quickly our announcement for the rest of the week. And when we come back, Dr. Gonpu is going to give his closing remarks. Please note that we are now airing in Monrovia on Hot FM 107.9. Tune in to Hot FM Wednesday, 11 a.m. local time in Monrovia, Thursday, 5 p.m. local time in Monrovia, and also Friday, 11 a.m. and listen to our broadcast. Today at 7, we're going to be having a virtual fundraiser. There's a group that is helping orphanages in Liberia has asked that we do a virtual fundraiser. So the program starts right here at 6 p.m. Eastern. So please tune in and be ready to donate. These ladies and gentlemen, they're doing a very worthy cause. And so we all need to rally around them and support. Our Periscope series continue where our political bulldog, as soon as he looks at some key players in the Liberian political stratosphere. He examines their public life and do some analysis. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. on prime time, my guest is going to be Dr. Ibrahim Yang. He's a political scientist and policy analyst. We're going to be talking about for-profit and for-power state policies, the FDI and economic exploitation in Liberia. He's going to be looking at, these companies and the government of Liberia. The companies want profit, government want power, and what they've been doing, looking at the period from 1920 to 1960. You don't want to miss that. Also, next week, we're going to be having a graduate of the Poro Society, Mr. George H.W. Patel. Is going to be discussing the Poro and the Sunday, the history, what they are not, what actually they are, and their role in peace, security, and nation building. He's going to be joined by Mr. Jason Carr, a PhD student whose research is on the Poro. Please don't miss that. Dr. Gonpu, we are drawing down the curtains now. Let's get your parting comment. We really, really appreciate your time here, and we love you to come back.
Thank you, Dennis. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss these topics on the printing of money, as well as the issue of the congressman's statement. I think that we have a chance to make Liberia a better country. The history of Liberia and our recent experience point out that our people and the country itself has suffered enough, or more than enough. And we know that the issue of rule of law, the issue of corruption is critical to the development of any country. And this country is a country that has the potential to be one of the most prosperous countries in Africa, and perhaps compete with so many other nations in the world. But we have to wake up and move the country forward and do whatever is required to build a better country. The leaders will not build the country alone. Citizens in and outside our country need to come together to unite in order to build a better country. And that means that we have to all be willing to stand up and do whatever is possible in terms of calling on our leaders and our, especially our legislators, to tell them what we think should be done. We should not necessarily wait for the United States to take the lead. We can see where our country is, and many of us can see what needs to be done. And I believe that citizens, power starts with, power comes from the people. And so we should give our people the education and the empowerment and the knowledge that is needed to stand up and tell their legislators what's required, tell their president what's required. In the cases that we are dealing with now, I think that more investigation is needed, and it should not be investigation without end. The investigation should be done and have a time limit and get some results so that some actions can be taken. So I thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to future engagements.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gonpu. I want to thank all our viewers for watching. And that brings us to the end of our broadcast. Keep tuned, focus on Liberia. Have a very good weekend, and see you tomorrow.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.